Hey guys, it's Jack, and I am recording this video on Friday in mid-afternoon before the premiere of the Lip Sync Smackdown of Season 14. Guys, I am so excited. Judging by the preview, I think it's going to be a great episode, and though Snatch Game was like an hour-long build-up to this, I really think it's going to pay off and be one of the best episodes we've seen in years, and I'm going to do like sort of a live reaction, record the first part of this video, and then watch the episode, and then record the end, and then upload it on Saturday, so you'll get my reaction at the end of this video. Right now, though, I have high hopes for this episode, and it got me thinking of another Lip Sync Smackdown that happened on another season that didn't really go as well. There are episodes of Drag Race that have bad challenges or bad judging, and people think those are the worst episodes of the show, and that's a great argument, but I think if we're talking about the worst episode of the show that has to do with the competition, not like a reunion or anything, there's nothing worse than Season 13's premiere. And one last thing before I get started, I gotta do the obligatory YouTube thing. I honestly thought this never really worked, but you guys really come through with the subscriptions, likes, and comments, so if you enjoyed the video, subscribe, and then like and comment on the video. It really helps boost me in the algorithm. The numbers don't lie. When I ask you guys to do this and you come through, it really actually boosts me a lot, and I can't thank you guys enough. Once again, this is no hate towards the girls, all criticism towards the production. I know I say that a lot, but there is a good reason for it. Let's talk about the Season 13 premiere. If there was ever an episode of RuPaul's Drag Race that felt like complete filler, it would be this. From early viewings of Season 13, it feels like it's going to set up a lot, but after watching it back, you realize that nothing's really set up in the long run, and it just serves as a way to introduce the queens in a very, very bad way. Before I get into why it barely sets up anything, let me go into first why the structure of the episode is just so bad. So from a Drag Race superfan standpoint, my standpoint basically, it mixes up the structure of a normal season in like one of the first episodes and kind of just does the start and stop thing over and over again. So with Candy and Joey, we got the format change and it's like, oh, this is interesting. It's kind of taking a while to introduce these two queens, but maybe they'll change it up a little bit to speed up the process. And then, it's happening again with Denali and Lala Ree. Oh, and then again with Tamisha and Simone. Oh, and again with Gottmik and Utica. Oh, and it's just gonna keep going and going and going and going. I'm always open to the showrunners switching up things, but when you have the first episode structure so perfect, and then you switch it to something that's kind of repetitive and confusing, it doesn't really make good TV. There's always going to be repetition in the first episodes with the queens walking in, introducing themselves, but when more and more queens walk in, it starts to build, and then there's like more excitement because it's getting closer to the challenge. But every time two queens introduce themselves and then they go to the main stage, introduce themselves again, like it's supposed to get to know them better, but it just kind of creates this lack of flow for the whole episode. There's just no build and tone whatsoever because there's a constant start and stop, and it's just like a bunch of these little mini episodes, and then you kind of just lose interest halfway through and forget what happened in the episode. And with the build of tone, you also get a build up to a challenge win and maybe a fun lip sync like you got in episodes 2 and 3 of Season 13, but episode 1, the tone is literally girls about to go home because they think they got eliminated. Which brings me to my next point of why I really dislike this episode. I think it was Violet who said she doesn't like seeing queens get their dreams broken, and I completely agree.
I lost interest like that because like seeing someone's dreams crushed is not inspiring for me.
Girl, I told you. The lady said, go home. The lady said, go home.
And seeing all of the girls get put in the pork chop loading dock.
Choices.
After seeing that, I'm like, this is actually disgusting. Like, you guys are like exploiting these people's like dreams and hopes and goals and lives for like TV ratings and shit. And it's not giving what you think it's giving.
Imagine walking into your dream show and then in the first episode, the first like hour that you're filming, you immediately get eliminated. Like, obviously some queens were very skeptical and I get that, but when you're kind of getting your emotions already played with by going on the show, you never know what's gonna happen, so playing with your emotions more, it's supposed to make good TV, but it just makes the viewer not really feel good, and obviously the queens don't feel good either. Just the idea of these queens sitting in a little waiting room for God knows how long, just thinking that they got eliminated and now they just need to wait here for filming and just kind of like sit alongside each other and maybe talk a little bit, but that's about it, and just think that their dreams are over, like Tamisha. Like, is that supposed to make us entertained? Because that doesn't make me entertained at all. There were just so many moving parts that kind of logically made sense for them to go home, but also not go home at the same time. And I know that it was trying to make entertaining TV with a lot of stakes, but it just kind of made the whole tone of the show really awful. And that set up season 13 like in a really bad way. And obviously season 13 was not the most well received by fans. So now let's get into the setup of season 13. So let's talk about the 4 storylines that were attempting to be set up. The first storyline that was trying to be pushed the most was the winner's circle versus the second group of girls, but that one was dropped as soon as Lala got eliminated. I think overall it was just a really weird storyline to set up because the girls weren't really taking it seriously, but the producers were trying to push the storyline. For the queens, it was just something that they could kind of call back to, like, haha, we are the winner's circle, oh, we're so good. But the second Lala got eliminated, they were like, oh, okay, well, I guess that's it. No more joke because, you know, one of our girls went out. But the producers were kind of banking on the fact that this would create more divide, and it just kind of didn't happen. Speaking on the fact that they were trying to create more divide, let's talk about the next 3 storylines, which are all trying to kind of create tension between the girls, like individual girls, I mean. So first we have the 2 storylines with Liv Lux and Rose and Tina Burner. These storylines were set up heavy in the first episode, and I was ready for them to be prevalent through the whole season. And we got nothing with it. The most we got was the makeover episode, but that was like barely anything. Like it was always a little bit implied that, oh, Rose and Tina don't like each other. And then, oh my God, now they're best friends because they did the makeover. Like we didn't see the conflict before the resolution. And then it's the same thing with Liv and Rose as well. It was implied that there was going to be kind of this struggle between them, like, oh, who's going to come out on top, the professional or the new queen who's just like extremely talented at what they do. And the thing is, both of them had wins and a lot of great moments, but neither of them were kind of in competition with one another. Like if Rose won one week, then Liv was kind of not doing great that week. Or if Liv won one week, Rose wasn't doing great or was just safe. I don't want to say too much because I want to save some for the season 13 review, but there were just like these 2 storylines that were so heavily pushed in the first episode and took up like a decent portion towards the end that got you excited for the season. But then watching it back, you're like, oh, this is just filler. And then the last storyline that was trying to create conflict was Elliot getting eliminated. Elliot was completely correct in calling out the fact that Kimura knew someone and they were the last 2 to walk in, so obviously she was going to get voted out first. And again, the whole voting process just makes you feel like really shitty because all of these girls are just coming into the show like right out the gate and then immediately trying to eliminate each other. Like on All Stars, I get it, that's the name of the game, but they had no idea that this was happening here. So then you have a queen that's at disadvantage who barely knows anyone, and then they're immediately getting judged based off of their appearance and then sent home right away. It just sets such a mean-spirited tone for the rest of the show, and then it slowly has to climb out of that, and I think it eventually does. But when you have this first episode of queens just like getting down on themselves for losing a lip sync and then thinking they're getting sent home, like that's so hard for a queen to get out of mentally. So then Elliot is sent home, aka she goes to the first group, and then in episode 4 they finally meet up, and then Elliot confronts the girls for voting her out, kind of expressing her complaints with how the whole voting system worked. And then you're like, oh, maybe there's going to be conflict. Everyone's kind of against Elliot. Maybe Elliot can kind of rise to the top, and then nothing happens with it. This whole first episode was just designed to set up conflict between the girls, and then absolutely nothing happened from it. Instead of setting up long-term conflict, it instead just starts the season off with a bad taste in your mouth, and then that's what people are going to remember about the early part of the season. It's just really repetitive for returning viewers, and for new viewers, oh my god, it would be a mess. I like a lot of season 13 and I appreciate it, and I know that a lot of new viewers would too, but they have to sit through this episode first, kind of not really understanding the format of the show, and then like the format is completely changed, and then it's repetitive, and you have to know so many queens, and it's just so much starting and stopping. Like as a new viewer, I feel like this is a terrible introduction to the show. I tried watching it with a couple friends at different points, and they just kind of got bored because they don't know the format. So, you know, seeing 6 lip syncs and having to introduce 13 girls, like it's so much for them to follow. And if they aren't completely vibing with it by the second point with Denali and Lala Ree, they're just going to kind of get bored. And that's why a gradual buildup of a challenge or a performance is so much better, because you see them working on it and then you see their performance all come together. But here you just see like 5 different segments, and then you're just kind of thrown at the end like, oh, someone's dream is gonna completely get broken. If you just add the introductions of the queens to episodes 2 and 3 and completely remove this episode, you're not really missing that much. Every season, I'm pretty sure Drag Race has to meet a certain quota of episodes, like I think it's 16, I want to say. So that's why they had things like this and then the P special. There are these episodes that are thrown in as almost filler just so they can meet the quota, but unlike the P special or the reunion, I feel like this first episode, it's the premiere. You know, you need to kind of aim a little higher than this because you're trying to get your season off to a good start, and this just really didn't. So with this quota that they need to reach, it also brings in question season 14 and why there have been so many saves and so many non-eliminations and why we're at a lip sync Smackdown now. I think again they're trying to meet this quota, but they're trying to do it in a way that's more natural to the show, unlike season 13, which had a lot of low rated episodes because of this. So it feels extremely long because it is, but they just have to meet this quota, and they're trying to do it in a way that's still entertaining to the viewers, even though it's not really reading well online because people are complaining that the season is so long, but it's not really up to them. Personally, I'm glad that they're doing it this way because though we haven't gotten an elimination in a while, it just makes me feel better that the queens are actually getting to showcase more. It's all about the placement of the episodes, so though season 14 feels like it's dragging in the middle, I think it's going to start ramping up towards the end, but with season 13 having this first episode that's just kind of mean-spirited, it kind of just sets the season off to a really bad start. So that's it for the recording of the first 10 minutes, so I'm gonna go ahead and watch the episode and then edit the rest of this around, I don't know, midnight or something, so let's see what I think about the episode. It was honestly really good. After the episode kept going, I just realized how many moving parts there were, and I think they executed everything really well and just gave everything the right amount of time that it needed to blossom. Obviously, from a narrative standpoint, it would have been cooler if the Daya and Jasmine lip sync happened later, but because it happened first, it was like crazy, and it was so cool that Jasmine like actually took it and was like, okay, let's make some good TV. I honestly think all of the lip syncs were top tier and could have gone either way, and that's just what makes such a great episode. And now comparing it to season 13, it just feels like this is what season 13 wanted to be, but this was season 13 done right, basically. Because we already knew the girls and there was actually going to be an elimination, there were stakes, and we saw like the emotion on the people's faces, like Camden walking in the room after she survived the lip sync. That was such a raw and genuine moment. And then we see Bosco kind of cracking under the pressure. Like, these are things that you can't really get if it's the first episode and we don't know these queens. And though there was a lot of starting and stopping in it, it was still a lot better than season 13 because it was lip sync after lip sync rather than having to start and stop and introduce new queens. And see, the flow just works so much better here. Think of it as a mixture of the season 13 premiere and All-Star 6 lip sync Smackdown. It kind of combines both elements with the commentary from the other queens and like the lip syncs after one another and the super dramatic tone, but it makes it just so fun. Though the season is dragging right now, I feel like this is the start to part 2 of the season, and it kind of justifies any queen making it to top 4 now. Willow gives us a new side to her every week. She is one of the smartest queens to ever be on the show. We saw after Camden survived the lip sync just how bad she wants it. Georges literally won the episode tonight. If there was a lip sync winner, it would be Georges. Like, she just, oh my, there is no beating her. Daya came out on top in the Jasmine situation, and that's kind of setting her up to kind of go far now. Bosco, like Camden, is rejuvenated, but it's like even more so because she had to do an extra lip sync, and she finally kind of overcame her inner thoughts, and I just think that she's probably going to win at least one more challenge now. And for the last two, I need to see the edit for the next episode to kind of see where they're going to start to fall down now. I think Deja could definitely go far because the next episode's a musical, and we saw that little clip of her and she seemed to be having a lot of fun, but you never know with her. And with Angeria, it's a weird case because I feel like she was so strong in the edit at first, but now they don't know what to do with her, or she's just not like... It's weird how little they're editing her into the show now. Even when she wins a lip sync, it just doesn't feel like she has that strong of a presence anymore. But then you think back to Simone, who was super dominant in the early part of season 13 and then kind of fell to the back a little bit in the mid part, but then came back really strong at the end. That might be happening with Angeria too, so we'll just have to wait and see a little bit longer. Overall, was it my favorite episode ever? Like I said that it was going to be at the beginning of the video? No, but the stakes were perfect. I think they told the story really well, and it's a really entertaining thing that's kind of going to start the next part of the season, and I'm super excited to see where they go from here. Thank you guys so much for watching. My next deep dive is actually on Raja O'Hara, like you guys voted in my poll the other week. I am so excited for this one, and I really hope I do her justice because I love her so much. I'll see you guys soon. Thank you so much to my tier 1 patrons. Thank you so much to my tier 2 patrons, Gia, Andrew, Danielle, Darius, Jared, Jordan, Mark, and Sarah. And thank you so much to my tier 3 patrons, Ian, Alvaro, Ketzel, Nancy, Sean, and Sim.